Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to the latest episode of the Hard Compound Live. This is the first live chat we've had in 2022, and it's the 51st live interview that we've done. For those of you who don't know, my name's Rich, and I run and operate the Hard Compound. We're a one-stop shop for all things motorsport, past, present, future, IndyCar, F1, NASCAR, rally, touring cars, bikes, anything you can shake a stick at. We like to cover it in the form of race previews, race reviews, articles, birthdays, throwbacks, all that kind of thing. And we also do live interviews, as you might have noticed. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and, Instagram and YouTube. Just search for the Hard Compound on any of those and give us a follow so you don't miss out on all the good motorsport stuff. Excuse me. All these live interviews are streamed live to Facebook, YouTube, and our Twitter feed as well. They're also saved automatically once we're finished. So if you want to go and give us a subscribe on YouTube, Twitter or Facebook, and watch some of the interviews back at a later date, then do feel free to. We've spoken to some amazing guests. As I mentioned, we've had 50 of these interviews. We've had some amazing guests from the British Touring Car Championship and also from the world of sports cars, F1, IndyCar and bikes. More pertinent to tonight, we've got sports cars, F1 and things like that. We've spoken to the likes of Andy Prio and Steve Soper. We've spoken to Dick Bennett, the boss of West Surrey Racing, who has launched the careers of Ayrton Senna, Mika Häkkinen, Rubens Barrichello and the like. We've also spoken to recently to Terry Fullerton, the guy that Ayrton Senna described as his biggest rival in F1. And while we're on the subject of F1 and single seaters, we've spoken with the likes of David Brabham, Derek Warwick, Stephanie Hansen, Perry McCarthy, Mark Blundell, Alex Caffey, Ari Lindike, Danny Sullivan, Willie T. Ribbs, reigning IndyCar champion Alex Palou, Will Power, and many, many others. And 1 year ago tonight, coincidentally, we had Mario Andretti on, which was an absolute privilege because he is a legend and an icon of world motorsport. Which brings us very nicely on to our guest this evening. As you'll have seen, and as you'll know because you're tuning in, he has won the Le Mans 24 Hours a staggering 6 times. He has won 8 F1 Grand Prix, racing for Ferrari. He's also raced for McLaren, Williams, Tyrrell, Ensign, Wolf, and many, many others. He's won the Dakar Rally. He's a Can-Am champion. He's a world sports car champion. It goes on and on. So without further ado, because you've tuned in to see him, not me, it gives me great pleasure to welcome our guest on. Please join me in extending a very, very warm welcome to the legend, Mr. Jacky Ickx. And there we are.
Good evening, Richard.
Good evening, Jacky. How are you?
Well, it's an experience, isn't it, for me? Because clearly I'm landing in the 21st century, entering in your life and other people's life and racing fans in a way which is fairly unusual for us.
Yes.
So, yes, you mentioned Mario already. We speak about antiquities, people from the past, that, and we are lucky you bring us alive.
Well, it's a pleasure to have guys, like you, and like Mario and like some of the other names on the show. And as we've said before, it's fantastic that people of the younger generation, maybe, still want to speak to you and they want to hear from you because you guys are absolute legends of motorsport. And that's the thing with motorsport fans; they know their history. So it's fantastic to have you on. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us.
So what do you want to know? Because that's the reason of our meeting, huh?
Absolutely.
You want me to tell you very special secrets, maybe, on things or haven't been said, but I have some doubt about that. But I'm there to answer to all your questions, of course.
No, we'll see how we'll see how we get on. See if we can uncover some hidden gems. Just want to turn my attention very quickly to the comments. Hello guys, thank you to everyone who's commented. Do put some questions in, we'll try and get to them if we can, but as I said in the post, we've only got about an hour or so and we've got a lot to get through because Jacky's had an amazing career. So we're going to get started. If you guys want to put in where you're tuning in from, that's always nice to know. And hello to everyone as always. So let's crack on. We've got plenty to talk about. Firstly, you've been quite busy already this year, Jacky. You've been out to the Dakar Rally as usual, and you've been out in Monte Carlo for the World Rally Championship as well.
Yes, it's true, because although you have reached a certain age, the passion for motor racing remains. The admiration for the actual drivers, whatever it's car racing or motorcycle, are great people, very talented people, I must say. And it's very exciting to watch them, especially if you mentioned the Paris-Dakar, they were in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. And clearly, you can't talk about a country without having seen it. And I tell you, it's a country which moving forwards. There are so many big progress being done during the last 2 years. The country itself, it's fascinating. The people who live there, the humans who live there, are lovely people, and it's a great experience for everyone. And clearly, that sort of race like the Paris-Dakar, it's not only the sport, but also the opportunity you have to discover new people, new country. And as far as Saudi Arabia, it's clear that for us in the Western country, it's fairly unknown in a way. So that was the experience. And at the opposite side, yes, a week after I was at the start of the Monte Carlo rally. And these people are really great artists in a way, because the philosophy of rallying has not changed. It's mean you accept a potential risk in cars who have been modified or are very strong or had a real roll cage, well done, strong, but very fast, and you accept to drive, not in the sand and in the dry of the desert, but you accept to go full speed in the snow, in the wet, on the ice, in the mud, on the rocky section, on top of the cliff, in the middle of the trees. You go 200 kilometers per hour with the forest on both sides. No mistake allowed. And they do it, and I'm full of admiration for them. They are really exceptional people, as are the Grand Prix drivers in motorcycle. You know, the motorcycle are so impressive today. On top speed, they go faster than a Formula One car. They go at the Mugello, for example, 365 kilometers per hour. And they do it like those people in the early days before the war, after the war. They have accepted for the joy of what they love. It's the risk, the potential risk. So, yes, that's our life today, and we are all like that. Yes, we love to look the others.
No, fantastic. And that's something that I always say about rally drivers and about the guys who compete in things like the Isle of Man TT, as you said, on bikes. They're just incredible racers, incredible drivers, and absolutely mad.
Yeah, because you speak about the Isle of Man TT. This is really special, as was the Targa Florio in the early days.
Yes.
You know, it's such a long tracks running on the normal roads with the walls on the side, the horses, and you had, for example, Joey Dunlop, and the family were all the great champion of the Isle of Man. Yes, it's something very special, clear. So,
yeah. Absolutely. And of course, it was on bikes that you started.
Sorry, you were supposed to talk about cars, and now we are on a motorcycle group.
Oh, I'm happy to talk about bikes. I love bikes.
Me too.
People always say stop talking about bikes, but I won't. So. But it was on bikes that you started, wasn't it? On the motocross side of things. How did you get into the bike racing when you were younger?
Well, first of all, you have to believe me when I say that when I was 15 years old, 16 years old, I thought I would have loved to be a gardener or a gamekeeper. I was miles away from the sound of the engines.
Wow.
And miles away of dreaming about racing. When I was a little kid with my father, I went to see 1953 Fangio at the Belgium Grand Prix. And I say, please don't do it again because it was very boring. So I didn't know. So I didn't know I was going to become a race driver one. That's the mystery of the destiny. But
wow.
To your question, how it's happened. Number one, I think it's much easier when you are bad at school.
Yep.
Because it's clear your parents are very anxious to know where you're going to go and what you are going to do in the future. And when they are totally desperate about you and there are not any other option, well, they give you some gift, and the gift was a motorcycle.
Right.
And it was a 50cc. With that 50cc, I met Sammy Miller and Gordon Jackson in famous international trial, and one in Belgium, it's called the Lambarel. I met them, and I was doing well with that 50cc. So a year later, I was with Zundapo. It's a German motorcycle who doesn't exist anymore. And I became their driver, not only for trial with a 50cc and later with a 100cc, but also in enduro. For example, do you know that I did the Scottish 6 days trial?
Really? Wow.
The same era as the famous Sammy Miller and Gordon Jackson and the others.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I was, yes, I have plenty of lovely memories. I didn't have any license to drive a car at the time. I had to be driven there. But when I say that, it's clear that rather than being last at school, and rather than being sitting next to the radiator watching the birds by the window on the last bench on the class, I discover, and rather than being last, or let's say one or two before last, I discovered the pleasure to be good at something.
Yeah, yeah.
So quickly, I have discovered the joy of the podium.
Right.
And then that's the motivation. But also at the same time, it's clear that it's unusual to have some parents who allow you to do these sort of things, sort of competition. And that's why I say they had to be totally desperate about you to accept it. Because honestly,
you have to do something.
That's the first, to pass that point, it's already a success. After, later on, they suffer a lot. Because as you said, or I'm sure you're going to say, these years were dangerous and so on. Yes, it is. So you don't think about the risk at all, but they think about it. So they suffer a lot. My mother, my father, everybody suffers. So anyhow, I went to the Scottish 6 days, the International 6 days trophy enduro in Germany. I won a number of championship in Belgium in the category 50-60. And you know against who? With Roger de Coster.
Yes.
I beat Roger de Coster, who has been a motocross champion in these years. And it's amusing because later, of course, who roads separate totally. And also, you have to know, as far as the experience, the 5 seasons I did in motor racing, I did some Grand Prix racing motorcycle as well as a 50cc Chrysler. The Suzuki Grand Prix machine I was supposed to drive when I was 18. but unfortunately, I could not do it because I was too young, and you need a special license to do it. And that machine in those days was revving at 18,000 revs, 9-speed gearbox with the great champion Anderson and some Japanese driver. So yes, I was doing in those days from 16 to 20, both motorcycle in winter or enduro racing and hill climb with saloon car racing, gymkhana, small rallies in those days. And slowly, the destiny took me up.
And yeah, and into the cars.
Well, the destiny definitely, I took the corner for cars because someone offered me a car. And it was a BMW 700cc coupe, 44 horsepower, the motorcycle, the flat two of the BMW motorcycle in it, and so on. And step by step, I went up. It's a long story for the start, but it's just to say we are in the hands of the destiny. The destiny, what it is to meet the people, the right people at the right, and to be there at the right moment. And
that's something that I always say. And as I said, I've spoken to 50 people on these things, and they've all said, you know, people that have had a long career in whatever they choose to race, it's always been a case of, and then I met this person and things changed. You know, things got better, or they went in a different direction. And obviously that sounds like it was the case for you as well. But when you were on the bikes, did you ever think I'd like to try car racing, or were you thinking about sports cars or F1, or was it just racing bikes at the time?
these things just happen. As I told you, I love the silence of the forest and peaceful moment without any noise and anything. I went into something totally unexpected. The cars came to me, and in those days, the first thing is there are no sponsor and no money in motor. It's purely a sport.
Yeah.
You have some team owner who are passionate by motor racing, whatever motorcycle or cars, and the joys, whatever it is, if it's a saloon car or a single seater later, you're happy to drive because you are freelance. Right. And the reason why these people like Mario Andretti or Jacky Stewart or Graham Hill or Jimmy or Brabham and Dennis Hulme, they all did different series the same years. And we were able to race because there were no exclusivity. We were able to race. Personally, I told you 40 weekend of racing.
Yeah.
I did 1 year 48 weekends on racing because I was doing motorcycle at the same time.
Wow.
This is not possible anymore today.
I mean, could you imagine someone like Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen doing that? It just there's no way.
That's what he did one step at a time. He did Formula 3, whatever, Formula 2. He went up slowly, but you do only one series a year. So that's restrict a little bit your career statistics, because you mentioned the number of years. For example, I last 32 seasons. I compete in every category, and I was reasonably good in every category. Career statistics are made by the chance you have to drive for teams where there are some humans. It's not like the tennis when you have your racket, or running where you have your running shoes and your t-shirt. If you receive a winning car, that means a group of people having a project, and if they do it well, it's much, as some will say, it's less difficult to win. I will say it's more easy to win when you have the right car, and
Yeah.
that's all you can say at the end of your career. You can
Yeah.
say, for example, Jacky Ickx has won 47 long distance races or 29 stages of the Paris Dakar. That's only possible when you realize there are some. Today we speak about team of 400 people, 300 people. At the time it was maybe 20, 10.
Wow.
It doesn't matter. The quality of the passion of those who work on a racing machine, it's a real passion and a real motivation,
Yeah.
because there is no limit on time, working time. You can work day and night for your driver on your machine, especially if you have to replace the engine, the gearbox, or if you have a small crash that you have to repair. And it's fairly unfair in a way, because we pick up the lights, and the glory,
Yeah.
but those who made it possible, you never see them, and they have the intellectual satisfaction to have done the job.
Yeah.
Pure
Absolutely.
in a way. And it's fairly unfair, because it's much more than saying thank you. It's much more than simply a courtesy.
Yeah. Yeah.
The reality, it's much higher than that. They
Yes.
deserve,
It's like
they
they've
deserve to have
yeah, they've kind of
80%.
they
80%
deserve it as
of the
much as
job
you.
is done, and you finish the job.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they're working hard for you to to finish the job, as you say. And that's why it's always nice when you hear a racer saying, the first thing he says when he wins a race is thanks to the team.
Your,
Because
your friend Louis, for example, always says, thanks to the team, thanks to the team, thanks, guy. The first thing he says when he finishes the Grand Prix, when he passed the line, he says, well, guys, you have done a hell of a job, and that's
yeah,
fantastic. Thank you. I'm grateful, and so on. And that's the reality. You
yeah,
have to consider that aspect of the most important, because you have all these people who are working for you, and wow.
yeah. They're working hard to give you the car to go and win the race, and that's where all the work is, of course. Um, just on that, on about the team and the people. Just want to fast forward just a little bit to 1966. You made your debut in the German Grand Prix on the Nordschleife in the F2, the Matra or the Tyrrell. What was it about Ken Tyrrell that made you think I want to race for this guy? Because when I was doing the research, I saw an interview you did maybe 10 years ago, and I'm going to quote here. You said that so many people helped me in my racing, but Ken and Nora Tyrrell were without doubt the most important. Why was that? What was it about Ken?
Well, it's a
Tyrrell?
pity. It's really sad, but that those two, Nora and Ken, are not alive anymore.
Yeah.
Because it would have been easier for me to ask him, why did you choose me? I didn't choose Ken in reality, because
Right.
Ken was already a star in those days.
Of course. Yeah.
He picked up a number of drivers, including Jacky Stewart, for example. But yes, he decided, seeing me driving at the Budapest race for Saloon Car Racing, where he was handling the Cooper team, and he said, well, I want him to drive for me, but at the time I was at the army, I couldn't do it. But he was again there in 66, and he gave me my first chance to drive a single-seater. I must admit that was very special, because I went to the famous Goodwood track where you had the revival.
Yeah.
I think I went there and the first experience was, I think I spun at least 6 times at the chicane, and finally, in the very fast right-hand corner at the end of the straight, I crashed the car in the barrier, and so it was not a success, but he was very brave. That's why I say you have to ask him why he kept giving me. And I must say also, in those days, a small accident or accidents was things were accepted. Today, if you crash 2 times a car, or unfortunately a 3rd time, practically you know already that you will have to find another team. But he kept going, and together, definitely, it was a very happy time. I had the experience with the car, or was not performing as well with the BRM engine than the Cosworth engine in those days. But I picked up a lot of experience. I had everything to learn at the time. So when we went to the German Grand Prix with the MS5 Matra,
Yes.
and they had to include the Formula 2 to have a large field for the 23 kilometer of the Nürburgring. I was, for example, able to do the 3rd fastest time of everyone. So I was on the front row. I was supposed to be on the front row of the Grand Prix. And I must also admit that you have to know that before that, earlier on in 64, 65, I did a race in the Nürburgring, or was called the 86 horse of the Nürburgring, that I did with a Cortina Lotus and also with a Ford Mustang for Ford. So 2 drivers, 86 horse on the Nürburgring. So at the end, unless you are stupid, you know the track very well.
Yes, I'm sure.
You understand? You know every inch of the track very well after 86 horse. And also you have to know that the track at the time had 17 jumps. The Nürburgring was 22.800 meter, 17 jumps on it.
Wow.
And when I came with the Formula 2, I knew the place so well. I had just no fear. It's really extraordinary to think that you build a single seater or jumps like in rallycross, and it stays in one piece.
Wow.
But I speak about that because clearly Ken Tyrrell offering me to drive in the Formula 2 and the Formula 3 66, 67, having the chance to perform at the Nürburgring. I think Jacky Oliver, that was my teammate later on Le Mans and so on, was driving, I think, a Lotus. I'm not sure, in Formula 2 as well. He was 23 on 1 lap. I took him 1 second to the kilometer. And he was a very good driver at the time. So I was running maybe 8 minutes 14, and he was 18 minutes 32 or something like that.
Wow.
So then the destiny arrived again. Jacky Stewart not going to Ferrari after a long conversation. They didn't set the deal with Jacky, so they came in August and they said, "Do you want to drive for us?" So at the age of 23, I had a contract with Ferrari to drive the Formula 1 with Chris Amon. And wow. during that time, you know what is fantastic about this era? I was able to drive long distance for Ford with John Wyer in 68, and I was with Ferrari in Formula 1. It's something you cannot imagine at the time.
That's amazing, because obviously John was
because on long distance with John Wyer, when I mentioned the 47 success I had in long distance racing, they are, of course, part of it. But for example, at Spa, I won 5,000 or 6,000 kilometers at Spa. I was able to beat the Chaparral and the Ferrari P4 and with all these talented drivers. I was doing everything at the same time. So you build up an enormous experience. And also, it's like rally today, rain or fog.
Yes.
Heavy rain or heavy fog. You race. There is no discussion about, and I tell you, at the time, there are only straw balls. Huh?
Yes, yeah, no real barriers. It was just...
The safety was straw ball. So we did all that. We did all that at the same time. And of course, the reason why in wet conditions I was doing well is because I had the experience of a motorcycle in wet conditions.
Right.
And clearly...
That's why you were so good in the wet, because you're known as the Rainmaster.
Yes. And I was qualified a rain master. I didn't like the rain especially, but I was better than the others sometimes. But when you have only two wheels, when you do the trial experience with a balance and a matter of sensitivity on the throttle and the brake and everything, I think it helps. Because on a motorcycle, if you miss the goal, you're on the floor.
Yeah,
with a car, you can slide a little bit, you can go off-road, but you can save yourself. The punishment in motorcycle, when you calculate the wrong angle, there are no escape, you crash, that's for sure.
Yes, yeah, that's it. I mean, that's great about where the ability in the rain came from, because I've always said that the guys on bikes, they're just absolutely amazing, especially in the rain. And obviously, you know, you gained yourself the nickname the Rainmaster on the back of that, and with good reason. And just want to mention a couple of things in 1968. Where should we start? The first F1 win. Let's go with that. Obviously, driving for Ferrari, you're driving at Rouen, which was an amazing circuit from what I've seen, the footage and everything. Obviously, very sadly, we lost Joe Schlesser on the second lap of that race. It was a wet, dry race. Under any other circumstances, if a driver hadn't lost his life on that day, I think that drive would have been spoken about for years and years and years, because from the research I've done and from looking at it, that was an unbelievable drive by you in the conditions without stopping. What are your memories of that first win and that race?
Well, the main point is you have to understand the philosophy of motor racing is in those days, as I said, you race any circumstances.
Yeah.
The thought of stopping a race because there is a major accident never enter in these thoughts.
Yeah.
It was part of it, and it was in a way accepted as a free right to take some risk, and you accept them, and here, as you are an adult, you're supposed to accept them. You mentioned that accident, you say lap 2. I don't know if it was lap 2 or not. It was early in the race, that's for sure. Yeah. And you're mentioning an era where it was very unfortunate to have so many dreadful accidents in those days. It was like that because I mentioned straw balls, very little escape roads, very little space if you are losing control of your car. The safety of the tracks and the safety of the car was very, let's say, very, very limited. And
it's almost zero.
when you speak about Rouen, because you speak about the French Grand Prix in '68, that track doesn't exist anymore.
It's public road.
Has returned to a normal traffic road, as Francorchamps was still 20 years ago.
Yeah,
or maybe a little bit more. Everything was accepted, everything was normal, but you had the sadness to have accident. And then I'm sure you're going to say that a number of times in that chat.
I'll try not to.
Yes, the risk was there, and it was painful. But I cannot say it's being brave to take the risk to do something risky, because you don't think about it when you are young.
Sure.
That's the privilege to be young. That aspect on life doesn't exist. You are there when you are 20, 30. I don't know when is the balance on that, but you're here forever.
Yeah.
So it's not a quality by itself. The quality is the desire of winning and to go to the limit and to be one of the best, or the best if possible.
Yes,
but yes, it could have been a lovely day. It was a terrible day.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Obviously you were.
Definitely, it was full of sadness. It's one of these dreadful accidents like Williamson had at a certain later on, or like Pierce Courage had later on. These terrible, but I cannot say we were used to it, but we knew we were part of it. And
you kind of
when we have honestly now, as we talk about this era, it's fantastic to have my age.
Yes. Yeah.
Having done so much high-speed mileage.
Yeah.
In such a unpredictable era, it's a miracle to have limited number of accidents and not to have hurt myself too badly. And I just want to tell you, it's not a matter of talent. It's not a matter of talent. It's just a matter of luck. Yeah. The difference the difference is maybe I had the chance often to be in good car. When you're in a good car, it's also a kind of insurance on accident, because the car, it's not tricky, it's easier in a way to drive. And also technically you can avoid some mechanical failure, losing a wheel, losing a wing, a bonnet, and so on.
Which was the issue with Lotus, wasn't it?
That's why, for example, it's so unfortunate to have lost so many drivers before the Second World War II, after it, in the 50s, 60s. And I think it was a must to progress on race course of what you call the modern era today. Yes, the cars are safer, the track are safer, the best, because at least you can have a long life.
Yes.
There will be, in motor racing, there will be always some fatalities. Yes, definitely. It will still exist. Whatever you do, there will always a list of little fatalities or made a dreadful accident. But miracle exists. Miracle. Do you know what a miracle is? Is to see Grosjean exploding in the rail. I was
just going to say Grosjean.
Going through the rail, burning and everything, and having only few skin graft and
Yeah.
burns at one end.
It's amazing.
That's a succession of miracle. So
Yes.
you need to have a good guardian angel. You need to have a good guardian angel also to survive, and you have to appreciate all that.
Yeah, definitely. Every time I see that accident with Romain, I still can't believe that he gets out. I still, it's
Nobody can believe he
unbelievable.
did it, but he did it, and I can tell you, you can reproduce that accident 2 million times. It will be a fatal accident,
Yeah.
but also something saved him. It's the halo.
Yes.
The in front. If you had to be convinced it was a good idea, now you cannot even discuss it anymore.
Completely agree.
Because he had, wow, what a lucky man, huh?
Yeah, very, very. And he's gone on to, and he's now doing very well out in IndyCar and driving for Andretti, and he's having a lovely time by the looks of it, which is great.
Yes.
Also, just going back, obviously, you know, we're here in the UK. Just want to quick talk about Jimmy Clark. Obviously, we lost him at the Nürburgring in, I think it was 68, wasn't it? And
no, he lost his life at Hockenheim.
Sorry, at Hockenheim,
in
yeah.
the Formula 2 race in 68.
Yes, yeah. Just wanted to get, obviously you raced against him and you knew him.
For an unknown reason, or can be all sort of thing, aquaplaning or whatever, but unfortunately he crashed in the wood, and as there were no guardrail at that place, he crashed in the wood, and he had no chance to survive. But you have to keep in mind that still today he's a hero. He remained a total hero, like Jochen Rindt or few others have, or Ayrton.
Yeah.
And but the best part, he was a so talented driver, but also a very good person. Humanly,
which is even more important.
He was a lovely person, because it shows you that you can be good at something and also being a good person. You can have the two goals at the same time. And he did it. He did it beautifully. And I must say, I met Franjo, who was the same type of person when I was a little kid, when I was 10. I met Jimmy, and there are so many, in reality, there are so many nice people in this world, but we only speak about the bad guys.
Yes, the bad guys make the news.
Exactly. When you're too nice, nobody pay attention to you. But
that's, I mean, obviously, you know, Jim Clark was born 13. Sorry, Jim Clark was killed 13 years before I was born. But anyone who's ever seen him race has said the same thing. Said he was one of the best, if not the best. And just very sad that he was lost when he was, because he could have, you know, everyone says that he could have gone on and won anything he wanted.
He was good at everything, huh? Because
one of those guys that you don't like.
He did the first saloon car race with the Cortina against I think the Galaxy of Jack Sears and the Mustangs, and he was there. I think he did the RAC rally. He was doing well. He was good at everything. But what a lovely person.
Yeah, it's a very sad loss. But yeah, he's still loved by everyone here in the UK. He's Scottish, but you know, it's fine.
That was Jackie Stewart says very often. When you say, "Are you you're British?" He says, "Scottish, please."
My wife is Scottish as well, so we just to keep it nice and level in the house, we say British. We don't want to fight. Also, just very quickly, that year, I think it was up on your Instagram recently. Was it the 6 hours of Spa on the old circuit when you were a minute and a half ahead after the first lap, or something like that? Just tell us about the old Spa circuit, because obviously everyone loves the layout that we've got now, but it was a monster, wasn't it? Before, it was just, and that must have been an amazing circuit to drive, and a bit terrifying, maybe.
The two important race courses are, as far the difficulties are concerned, is definitely the Nürburgring.
Yeah.
It has been modified a lot, but the Nordschleife, as they call it, still exists.
Yeah.
All the jumps have been cut practically. It's a bit easier. But if I can suggest you something, if you have the chance once to go to the FL region, it's to, you can go in when there are no race meetings and on weekends. You can take your own car and discover it. It's really an experience.
Yes.
The other one, at the contrary, it's a high speed road track, very high speed. And it's very special because it's really fast. For example, you mentioned the 1,000 kilometer. Later on in 72, I did drive the Ferrari 312 PB 3 liter. And in qualifying in 72, I run an average of 263 kilometer per hour average.
Goodness me. In that car on that circuit?
On that car and that circuit.
Wow.
So, and there are a section which really low. There is an hairpin, and but the rest are fast corner, where they are all between 250 and 270 kilometer per hour.
Wow. I'm going to be smiling all evening. That's amazing.
And, but once again, it was the time where racing was on top of Formula One, if I can say that, as far as the interest for the public. They were part of the history. And then came Bernie Ecclestone, who took the Formula One into a total professionalism. And he did, during these last decade, the decades where he was in, he put Formula One as the top of motor racing. And what you see today, it's what he has built up, putting into it. And if we have to put some grade 1, Formula One, grade 2, long distance, and then all the other categories. Yeah. But you said Spa, yes. Once, you say the future belongs to the young kids. When you're young, even if you face somebody more experienced than you in front, you are braver in a way, because to win, you're ready to break 20 meters later than the one who have the experience. Sure. At Spa, for example, on lap 1, yes, you're right. I took on the rain 38 seconds on a 14 kilometer track.
Wow.
And then the people who watch it, I didn't leave it because I was in the car, so I never saw what was behind me. But the people who watch it said it was incredible, because we wait 38 seconds to see the second car appearing. That means the sound of my car was gone on top of the hill at Spa, and then the silence, and everybody thought there was a huge accident or a huge crash. Nothing.
Because there was no one there.
So, you see, yes, I was brave on wet conditions.
Yes. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. I just can't get over the speed.
You know that we are in 1970 and you have only 10 minutes left.
Yes, I was just going to say we need to move. We need to get on.
I think we will have to do it a second. I think it will take 3 of these.
I'm happy to do
and
3.
I think you need 6 hours altogether if you want to do 32 seconds.
I'm more than happy to.
We will have to think about that.
Yes, definitely. We can definitely do that. I'll be very happy to do that. Just something I do want to talk about very quickly was at Le Mans. It is your first win at Le Mans. You're with Jacky Oliver.
We're still only in 69, huh?
Yeah, I know.
We are back 3 years.
I know. Just very quick. That was a remarkable win because obviously it was your first win, but also the way the race started with your protest about the Le Mans style start and everything. Obviously, that was born out of an accident involving your former teammate. But did you see that protest as more important than the actual race itself?
Let me tell you how it was at the time.
Yeah, sure.
At the time, the seat belt, the 4-point seat belts at the time, because now there are 6-point seat belts, were still under, in a way, discussion to know if it was better to be ejected from a car in case of accident or remain in case of it. There were still be some people having doubts about the seat belt. We used them, but okay. Le Mans, for example, the tradition was the running start.
Yes.
That means if you want to start quick, you have to choose either you put your seatbelt or you don't.
Wow.
I can tell you, I made few attempts to put a seatbelt at 300 kilometers or 200 miles down the straight. Honestly, it's not easy. It's an exercise. You have to put your knee to keep the steering, and I mean, honestly, it doesn't work. So to me, it looks evident because also Le Mans was not, as it is today, a Grand Prix race. Le Mans today, it's a Grand Prix race for 24 hours. Before, it was not a human exercise. The point was to maintain the car in good condition, because the question is how to make a car finish to Le Mans running at high speed.
Yes.
So you had to use your car in a way you save it when you can't, and when it's time to push, you push. When you are comfortable, you lift off. You save fuel, you save everything, the engine, because they were not the same type of tests before Le Mans you could do on a test bench for the gearbox and everything.
Sure.
So I decided not to run, and I didn't mention to anyone, because if I would have mentioned it, I'm sure there would have been the rule, the scrutineers, the clerk of the course having to do some comments.
They'd have said you can't do that, and yeah.
So to correct everything, I didn't change the Le Mans start. What makes that win successful? It's starting last and finish first.
Yeah.
The man who changed or helped me to change the rule was the very unfortunate John Wolf, who died on lap 1.
Yes, that year.
9:17. I have strong doubts that he had the seat belts on, but it was the unfortunate demonstration that it was not acceptable anymore.
Yes.
That's the reason why I was not punished to have not followed the procedure in a way. And that's why the Le Mans start changed that philosophy.
I mean,
And
it was basically what you were protesting against happened
well,
on lap one.
I cannot say I was protesting. I was
Or,
not caring about what the others were doing. I had 24 hours to do well, so I'm not going to win. But the fact is, I was almost last on lap one.
yeah. Wow. That's amazing. It's come
So,
through.
just to put the place, John Wolfe sacrificing his life in this condition is the man who changed the Le Mans start.
Yeah.
Me, I only opened the door
Yes.
to the change.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But
Just
it
very
was
quick.
a great race. Honestly, it was a fantastic race for Jacky, for myself. Enfin, the two Jackies, it was two Jackies together.
Yes.
That's the reason why we won. And also that's why I told you when you're young, you're made for something when you're young. You have an advantage of someone who is 38 years old with Anserman, for example, a legend, a survivor of the Formula One era, driving for Porsche at 38. It's clear that running with him for the last 3 hours and separated by 100 meters at the end of the race,
Yeah.
he would have break at 200, I would have break at 180. Huh? You understand what I...
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
that's the advantage of being young. And that's why I say the future belongs to the young people.
Yeah. Yeah. There's not so much fear when you're young.
2 minutes left.
Yep. Very, very quickly. Last thing I want to get to on that race before we'll have to reschedule for something.
That you have to organize with my team.
I can do that. No problem. Very quickly, right at the end of that race, there's the issue with the fuel, and you've probably been asked this many, many times. Were you really low on fuel on that last lap? Because you let him pass, slipstreamed, and then went past again.
Hello, the final
word. A trick.
that's our final word. Sometimes things are incredible. We raced together the last 3 hours. We had the pit stop on the same lap, the same refueling session, the same change of brake pads during the last 3 hours. So he could not go away and I could not go away from him. So we were together. That's what makes that race so fascinating. Also, the television is in black and white, but it was the first time that at Le Mans, they took the race course from an airplane which is called a Breguet Atlantic. These airplanes had an open door. They put for the very first time a TV camera from the sky, and they could, with that plane, cutting the angle, because Le Mans is a triangle, he could cut the corner and it could follow the overtaking, the braking and everything. So Le Mans was so important at the time that it was practically a non-stop live TV for the last 3 hours. So everybody lived that moment.
Wow.
Also,
that's amazing.
I rehearsed everything because I knew it was going to be decided on the last lap. So I had a strategy, I used it, but unfortunately, very unfortunately, we were, I think, 20 seconds too short. So we had to do one more lap.
Yes, when you crossed the line, it was,
one more lap, knowing that very little fuel for both of us in the full tank. So you see that I'm not such a nice guy as you think. Because on that lap, knowing that I needed slipstream to pass him at the end of the straight, I put my blinker on, I slowed down, and he told I was running out of fuel.
Oh, wow.
So, and unfortunately for him, he believes it. because
It was his fault. He believed it.
because between the entering in the straight till the restaurant, it's still a long way. I was cruising at 200 kilometers per hour instead of 300. So he thought, that's it. That's for me. As soon he passed me, I took his slipstream. I stayed behind. I passed him before the king at the end, and he never saw me again afterwards. So you see, it's not really nice, huh?
No, but you do what you have to do to win.
But it was quite clever in a way.
Very, very clever, especially at the end of 24 hours as well.
Yes.
Fantastic.
And that's the reason you saw Jacky Oliver, the great Jacky Oliver, and Jacky Ickx on the roof of that GT40, waving in front of an unbelievable crowd. And that was my childhood.
Wow.
Well, thank you very much. It was lovely to talk to you.
Yes, you too. One thing I do have to say, we've got Laura Brombach. I believe she's a friend of yours, or
yes, Laura Brombach. Laura Brombach. She is a lovely person who follow me. She's young. I think she has your age, maybe a little bit less. But I met him a number of times. She lives near Düsseldorf, I think, or near Cologne. Near Cologne, and she's part of these incredible fans because you don't win anything if you don't have any organizers. But if the organizer doesn't have any fun in the grandstand, in the fan, and if you don't have all these people with following motor racing, raining or no raining, especially the English, really, who are ready to go everywhere in any kind of conditions and being happy.
We love the rain.
It's a lovely opportunity to say how much we appreciate them and how much they are important to us. They were important yesterday. They're still important today. They are the judges. The public is the judges of the success of a sport.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Completely.
Well, Richard, thank you very much for that.
Fantastic.
Together. We are only at chapter 1.
Yes, we'll have to have some more chapters, but I'm sure we can arrange that. If you're happy to do that, I would be delighted to speak to you again. It's been fantastic speaking to you, Jacky, and obviously we'll let you get on with your evening. And thank you everyone for tuning in, and we're going to try and arrange.
Yeah, it was nice to talk to all of you, because that was the whole idea about it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jacky. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you very, very soon. Good night.